Order, and our first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. And in order to give him a workout today, and because he's going to be our lone presenter a little bit later, we'll give the man of the hour, Mr. Gary Minke, our budget director, the warm-up and the privilege.
All right, here we go. Everybody, keep up with me, okay? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir.
That's the best one we've ever done.
Okay, our first item is the adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to do so?
I move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Is there a second? Thank you, Dr. Mickelson. Motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? I see none. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. The motion passes 5-0. We have no public comments, so I think we are ready to dispose of our business by consent. I think everybody's had an opportunity to review the consent agenda. If so, I think we are ready to entertain the motion.
I move that the Board of Education approve the items of business by consent as presented and authorizes the Board President or the Superintendent to sign the special project and purchasing contract for and on behalf of the Board of Education.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. There's a motion. Is there a second? Thank you, Reverend Williams. Any discussion on the motion? Ms. Kerr, did I see?
No, I didn't see anybody's hand going up. John too close to the seat.
Okay. There is no discussion. There's a motion and a second. I think we are ready to vote. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Those opposed, the same sign. Ms. Kirk, or did you vote aye or nay?
Aye.
Okay. You actually raised it during May, so. So the motion passes 5-0. And our next item on the agenda is our lone action item, and that is the proposed policy changes from Ms. Kelly. If you wouldn't mind giving us just a quick rundown on what those are again.
Sure. The first policy has to do with the charging of meals in terms of free or reduced price meals, regular school lunches. And Nikki has requested that we make one change, and that would be in section 2C. It says the provisions of this policy pertain to regular priced, and it should say regular and reduced price. So that's a very minor change. So if there's no objections, I'll go ahead and include that change. The second of the policies includes major revisions to our discipline policy, taking much of the information about offenses and potential punishments out of the policy itself and moving them to the Code of Student Conduct. And I provided you with copies of both of those documents, along with the document with regard to the discipline policy itself has comments in the side that talk about each of the changes and why the change was made. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, unless you want me to go through it provision by provision.
No, I don't think so. Did you receive any feedback from any board?
I did not. I have not received anything on these two policies, on that policy or on the Code of Student Conduct.
One question on the Code of Student Conduct, is that revised every year?
Potentially, yes. I mean, it can be revised along with the discipline policies as changes are necessary. It wouldn't necessarily need to be revised every year, but certainly it could be. Generally, that's something I've taken to the policy committee almost every year, and we've made some changes in the discipline policy, and obviously the code is now connected directly to the policy. So if we make changes in that, we do that through that avenue as well.
I read a draft, and I don't remember if it was in the draft or the final version, but there was like, this year we have 15 seats for can't remember what.
CRE,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I just, that was specific to this year, and I just
Exactly.
assumed it was updated. every
And it
year
can be
rather than-
something that's updated, or if we take away or add different resources, those obviously will need to be added or taken away as well. The discipline policy itself does list the potential resources that can be used for sanctions for disciplinary infractions. So, that list will obviously need to be updated too, as there are new programs or old ones that go away.
That said, this is the first time, and I'm not on the policy committee anymore, so as these get parceled out one by one, I look at them, they look okay, and I vote for them. This is the first time I've seen a comprehensive revision come across this way. And I can actually trace exactly where every change came from, and actually reorganize it. Kick some old stuff out and move some things to make it flow better, so. Maybe that could just be an ongoing policy committee.
It pretty much has been in terms of the discipline policy, in terms of changes. We make changes almost every year.
Great. So any questions at all for Ms. Kelly?
I just have one other question. As I read through it, I noticed we added interns as part of the people who could be designated to determine suspensions. One question I've asked in times past is, what is our process for training the people who are making those kind of decisions? And as I look at our discipline data and how we are concerned about the outcomes there, how we're building into a policy something that does not perpetuate that.
That's a good question. I've always done periodic training with principals on discipline issues and the discipline policy. I assume that will continue into the future, but it is a good thought that people do need to be trained in terms of what they should be looking for and things they need to be conscious of in making those types of decisions. Obviously, with the changes in the discipline code this year, there will need to be some training done with principals just in terms of the new philosophies of alternative education versus suspension, and that there is a preference towards alternative sources rather than suspending or expelling a child ever. So there will need to be major training done.
And if I may interject, Ms. Wallace, can you come to the microphone for just a minute? I'm so glad you asked that question. Both Dr. McDonald and Dr. New, that are sitting in the audience, are putting together a principals academy. And so the deans, assistant principals, and all principals that have had less than 2 years as a principal will have intensive training, which they're both creating. They both just finished an equity and accountability conference last week, which really also got into interventions and the kinds of issues as it relates to that. Ms. Wallace, can you share the date in which the Principals Academy kicks off? And then every month they will have continued training, all of these deans, assistant principals, and any principal with less than 2 years. Others can come, but that group, they are required. But Ms. Wallace, can you share what date that starts and any item that I may have left off?
Yes, we're looking at July 12th and 13th to kick that off with a tour for the new principals and administrators that are not from around Topeka, with a bus tour of Topeka, sharing the community, and then a lunch, and then Dr. Anderson and I leading the afternoon meeting, outlining expectations, everything from communication to appropriate dress and attire, and how to have those conversations with staff and be seen as their leader.
And the other part of that, discipline and data and academics. And so really that whole classroom management piece we do with teachers, we're really doing that same thing with administrators, but in a much more in-depth way. And then I believe we selected the first Wednesday of every month for the entire year. They would continue to have that as a morning training piece. So we'll really be embedding discipline. Now, the rest of our administrators also will be trained because the new MOU and the other pieces. But that's another way of just building capacity in our staff and for succession planning as well. Thank you, Ms. Wallace.
Thank you. I mean, that's very helpful. I think, just a reminder, since we are, a policy-making body, and we know that our people are just implementing policy, I just wanted to address that at this point in the process. do appreciate the explanation and understanding of that.
Any additional questions or comments at all for Ms. Kelly about either of the two policies for us? If not, this is an action item and we are ready for a motion to take action. And if there's no objection, motion should cover both.
I move that the board approve the policy, and I don't have the number in front of me anymore, policies. As presented, I'm going to go say the policies as presented.
With the amendment to
With
the
the
meal
amendments,
charge.
yeah.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? There's none seen. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Those opposed, excellent, gotcha. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously, 5-0. And at this point, we have nothing else on the agenda. No further presentations. Is there anything from board members for any good of the order? Ms. Kirk.
I just came back from the Nuff Said Executive Committee meeting in Colorado, and it was really, first of all, it was a huge downer because we had a major report from the folks who lobby for all of us in Washington, D.C., and I'm telling you, it was a big old downer. But the rest of the meeting really was very, very helpful, and I picked up a few things that I thought I would be passing on to Dr. Anderson. But the other piece is the meeting in the fall will be in Papillion. I have to stop and think how to pronounce it. It's not the French pronunciation, although it means butterfly and they're the monarchs, but they don't pronounce it like it's a French word. Anyway, Papillion in south of Nebraska, of Omaha. It's a suburb of Omaha. So it's an easy trek for us. But they were looking at asking districts to take a look at being, what do we call them, workshops that we offer. Districts, we're not hosting, no, I'm talking about other districts will come in and offer workshops related to the topic to show what they're doing, and the topic has to do with partnerships, and Evelyn is very, very pleased, is pleased with how they've integrated that almost in every one of our elementary schools and middle schools. They have some kind of impactful partnership for student learning. So anything that we might be doing along that general area for us to think about presenting one of the workshops, that's the term I'm trying to workshop, that we would have. There are always these small ones outside of the think tank. So the website is up. It's for the program at Papillion, and so we can go and look at it. But we've offered workshops before, especially when we've been in some place like Nebraska, because staff can just run out and come back. But we take a look at it. We've been doing so many things in this district related to some of that. The other piece, and the other wonderful thing was really kind of fun for me is to sit there and listen to one of the speakers who was a turnaround principal in New Jersey, and now he's out doing all sorts of other things. But one of the things he talked about and went over and over and over is how to communicate with your community, get your brand up to where you want it to be in your community. And since Dr. Anderson has been here, I'm checking these things up. Oh, we're doing that, we're way ahead. And it was kind of reassuring. So I just wanted to say thank you, because that's one of the few times I could say, yes, we're already there. They did have some suggestions that we'll also pass on. But it was a very short meeting, but it was very powerful. So thank you for letting me go to that. And the conference in Omaha looks like it's really going to be really, really good. It will fit into what we're talking about. Oh, side piece. Nebraska plays Ohio State Saturday night, and they have set up at the conference hotel, which would be the DoubleTree in Omaha, what they call tailgating kind of thing, with big screens and everything like that. They can't get us tickets. I mean, nobody can get tickets, but we can, at least if you're interested, they've got this, a big party planned, so when people come in a little bit earlier on Saturday, it's an evening game. Oh, it's the third Sunday, is it, I have it written down on my stuff at home. Go to Nuss says they've got their, you've probably been getting emails from them and they've got one. I probably look at my cell phone, I can tell you, but it's like, I think it's the third weekend in October. So just to let you know, but it really looked like it fit, the whole message for the program seems like it fits into the kinds of things we're thinking about and doing, so. Right. So, I mean, there are people who won't want to go up and it starts Sunday, but if you go up Saturday night to get in, why? You can do the tailgating. I could care less what Nebraska does. But anyway, it's a big deal for them. It's a huge deal for them up there, so that's why they're making sure we can all go. And there are a lot of people who have to fly in Saturday night because from where they come, they can't get in on Sunday. So anyway, just to let you know. Thank you for letting me go.
Anything else from anyone? We gotta get order.
It's October 15th through 17th.
There we go.
Thank you.
Mr. Woods, may I just say, very briefly, the acknowledgement of the branding. I want to thank Ms. Kruger and her team, one of whom, Ms. Howland, you haven't met yet, part of the communications team, which they'll be presenting in a few weeks as well on the branding and activities they're doing. And as of Friday, they received a recognition from NASPRA, the National School Public Relations Association, for the community news, e-news that was started this week. And so, again, really congratulations goes to the team for the work they're doing with branding. Thank you.
Absolutely. I know I've certainly been seeing more tweets and more on social media. But I like it and I share it as if I've done it myself. And people think, oh, he's active. Yeah. Okay. Anything at If not, I think we are ready for a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Thank you, Reverend Williams. There's a motion and a second to discussion on the motion. Unseen. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. We are adjourned.